Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
It's the It's Got Star Trek podcast. Something happened.
It's Vic.
Vic
Fontaine. A gangster named Frankie Eyes took over his lounge. The whole place has changed and no one's sure how to change it back. What?
Nothing.
I guess this sounds pretty silly to you.
A little.
You have to understand, Vic isn't just another holosuite program. He's more like a friend.
Cassidy, can we talk about something else?
Sure. How come you've never been to Vic's?
Does it matter? You like going there and I don't. Let's leave it at that.
I was only asking.
And I gave you my answer.
There are times when I just can't figure you out.
Well, maybe that's part of the attraction.
Believe that if you want to.
Dan, I get the signal you're sending. I'm going to click the button. I'm clicking the button.
Button
Hold
clicker.
on, I'm going to click the button. There we go.
Oh,
Button.
there. The button was clicked.
I have clicked the button.
Now what? Now what
which
happens?
starts the timer,
Is it the start?
which indicates to us, not so much the audience, because this is an audio format and they cannot see our
They cannot see our
studio timer.
timer
They can't. Yes, they cannot see our studio timer.
because
but
I'm a robot. That's why they can't see it.
that is not
They
why
cannot see it because I am a robot.
No, it's because a podcast traditionally is an audio format. I know they got these newfangled video podcast vlogs. You remember vlogs?
Yeah.
They had blogs.
You remember VJs?
Oh, yeah.
Super VGAs.
Yes.
Super VGA.
You're talking about video jockeys.
Yeah, back in the
as opposed
90s.
to disc jockeys.
Like
Oh.
That was an
Pauly
MTV
Shore.
thing.
Pauly Shore was like
VJ, right?
He started out as a VJ or something.
or Matt Pinfield.
I kept Matt Pinfield. He looked like that dude from that band.
All right. So, yes.
What band was that? What the fuck band? Okay, it's not important. I'll think of it later. I'll get back
We'll think
to
about it after
Just
the break.
shout out
maybe.
the band name. It'll be a non sequitur, no doubt, when you come up with it. But as
driving
soon
me
as
crazy.
well, don't worry, because as soon as I
Pixies.
continue, as soon as I try to continue, you'll get it.
Right.
All right. It's not right now. You won't get it because we haven't continued on with the
No,
front
it's not
matter
going
of
to
the
happen.
episode.
It's totally out of my
Yeah,
head.
we gotta get
It'll
to
only you have to be interrupting me for the information to be retrieved from your brain. Okay. Podcast audio format podcast. They can't see the studio timer. It is now at 1 minute
Audio
and
format.
35 seconds. We are starting the podcast episode.
Better finish getting dressed. It's almost time.
It's indeed well past time to start the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
Come on! Come on!
There we go.
Deal me in.
All right. It's Got Star Trek. This week we are discussing the Deep Space Nine. Why am I keep?
Didn't you just say that?
No, I didn't. I'm just phrasing things oddly. And I
You're
apologize.
rephrasing.
Why are you doing that?
You're,
I don't
you're
mean to
phrasing
do
and
it.
then rephrasing.
No, but I haven't mentioned the title of the episode yet.
Phrasing
it's
and
like you're a bunch of
rephrasing.
beans. You fry you and then you refry you.
I'm all
Wow.
discombobulated here. Okay.
We can't afford to make any mistakes.
Too late. Too late,
late.
Major Kira.
We've made a lot.
We fucked this one right up.
It was tough getting sound from this episode because there was a lot of
Like it,
background noise in a lot of parts of the episode.
There's a lot of jingles.
It's like a
jingling and jangling.
noisy club.
Yeah.
We'll talk
Sure.
about the production of this episode at some point during this
Oh,
podcast because there is some interesting stuff there. I mean,
You know,
not
it's
that interesting.
one thing that's wait. Do we have any begin 'em ups or whatever you call?
Well,
them?
we haven't said the title of the episode,
Oh,
yet,
okay.
which is Badda-Bing, Badda-Bang.
Yeah.
From Deep Space Nine's seventh and final season. And it was an episode that, again, we'll maybe chat a little bit about this sort of right before, a couple episodes before the big 9-episode conclusion for Deep Space Nine.
Crazy.
Yes, it is indeed, and it is a crazy episode. But that is the conclusion. We do not have any emails. We do not have any voicemails.
I feel
We do
naked.
not have
I feel naked here.
We do not have any secret special guests.
Maybe it's because I'm
like
not
last
wearing any
week.
clothing.
Ew.
Just a
That's not true, everybody.
note to the audience that Dan, by request of Jesse and I, is indeed wearing clothing.
How do you know?
They don't know, but
Special request.
Jesse and I will stipulate to this fact. Okay. Anyway, Dan, you were saying you were trying to get to something.
I was only asking.
Oh, was I trying to get to something?
You just said, "Do we have?" You were about to say something, and then you said, "Do we have any front matter to the show?"
Oh, yeah, I hate that word, front matter.
Front matter.
I guess it just reminds me of back matter, and that
Back
okay.
matter.
Tack bag.
Oh, no.
So interestingly, this episode, being an episode and all that we did after last week's episode, what did we do last week? What did we talk about?
Oh, you're trying to associate this with what we discussed last week. Last week we discussed
the Royale.
The Royale from
Royale
Star
with
Trek
cheese.
TNG's second season.
Right. And that the question.
Well, this one's more heisty.
That's the thing. This one is a real legitimate heist one. This is probably, I would say this could arguably be the most heisty episode of all Star Trek.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
you could say that Deep Space Nine has a more heisty vibe. They can pull it off.
Well, and
Their
They've got
ensemble.
they've got more shisty characters, so they can have a heisty vibe.
Shiesty?
So okay.
Let bygones be bygones.
Yes. Yeah, we have mentioned no wait.
What?
Again, I'm sorry. Again, I don't know why I'm coming up with these odd verbal constructions. I apologize. Last
man.
week and during Lagrange
You got your
Point-
mind elsewhere.
Was it Lagrange Point in Discovery? That was was that the heisty one? Wasn't that Lagrange Point the heisty one?
Maybe.
I think it was Lagrange
I think-
Point.
Yeah, something like that.
Anyway, that's what got us thinking about heists, right?
Right.
Got us thinking in that mode about heist, and specifically the heist structure, the Ocean's 11 style, where you got your plans, and they did it in this episode where you have the future flash forwards of the plan in action,
Right.
but it doesn't match what actually happens.
Yeah,
and
there's
all that
always
other
there's
gag.
always a few little hiccups along
Yeah.
the way of every good heist. But this is definitely the heistiest.
But we had mentioned that we thought this was the heistiest, and I think now that we've seen it again, we can confirm that.
It's making me feel feisty. It's so heisty.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Ira Stephen Bear said, he had wanted to do as he put it, a caper show for years. I think going back even, further to previous incarnations. And he said this was finally in season 7 of Deep Space Nine that finally the pieces came together with Vic Fontaine and everything, where he thought, okay, we can pull this off. But that prompted me to think he kept referring to it as a caper episode, not as a heist episode.
Nog called it a caper as
And
well.
yeah, he did.
He's a bit of
yeah.
a rascal, that Nog.
But I was like, I don't know, because it feels more heisty to me than capery. So I
Caper's like stealing. Well, it's all about. I guess is a caper involved more like sneaking through like buildings at night and shit? Is that what, is that a caper?
Well, okay. So this is what I was asking. So I wanted to ask first. Okay, here's what we're gonna do.
Maybe a caper could have a more broader meaning.
Here's what I want to do. Okay. We have the definitions. I looked up the definitions for heist and caper, and I was going to ask you guys, Dan, you were just saying you thought capery was what, more like nighttime skulky action?
Yeah, skulking through.
Is that what
yeah.
makes it different than a heist? And
Like
Jesse,
you have a cape.
and Jesse, what were you saying? How does it differ from heist and caper?
Oh, maybe like a caper could be any kind of scheme, maybe.
So how is that different from a heist?
Well, a heist is you're pulling something off, like with like this like certain kind of precision.
But isn't that a scheme?
Yeah, that's all.
I didn't even think about
It seems
scheme.
like there's a lot of similarities and overlaps.
Right. So where does the Venn diagram between a
So I'm
heist
not
and a caper not
going to give you
overlap?
any real firm answers.
See, my Venn diagram doesn't meet where I said before. A caper is more night, crawling through buildings at night, whereas a heist is stealing stuff in plain sight.
Venn
I
diagram.
kind of dig that.
It's got a nice little meter to it.
The actual definition, I looked them up on Google via the Oxford Dictionary. The definition. Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the definition.
Take it easy, pal. Take it easy.
The definition of heist, where I feel like I'm having a stroke because I'm looking at the screen here and I keep wanting to say heist. The definition.
I'm not looking for trouble.
Is that guy very masculine? Oh, heist. He's the heist. He's the heist.
Let's leave it at that.
Heist. It just says that for noun, it says a robbery, and for verb, it means to steal.
Okay.
That's heist. And then for caper, it says the pickled flower bud of a prickly
snap.
Southern European shrub. Used to flavor food. So
Hey, Pally, whose side are you on?
I'd say that's the I'd say that's the difference.
I'm afraid I have to say no.
That's about the saddest story I ever heard.
I did look up the other. There are multiple definitions of caper, yes, and the other definitions is
so. Wait, what
interesting.
it is actually a seed.
It's a seed.
It's the pickled flower bud. I think a caper is the bud.
Oh,
so maybe the seed's in there. I don't know. That's what it says.
Flower
on the thing.
bud. Okay,
it has a
bud.
seed sort of quality to it.
But it is a flower bud.
It is a caper.
It's like the veal of flowers.
Interestingly enough,
Right?
it's what? The veal of flowers?
Maybe.
Are you just saying stuff to say stuff at this point?
Because it's no, because like it's a baby. It's a little baby.
It's a because it's a
Maybe,
bud. It's a
maybe.
succulent baby.
It's a little baby.
It's a little baby.
Little baby.
Man,
It's a little baby.
it's really unfortunate that veal is really so good.
Baby,
It's a horrible thing to eat, but
baby, baby,
it's really
baby,
tasty baby meat.
baby, baby,
Delicious.
baby.
Now, the other definitions of caper are number one. The number one definition in the dictionary is a playful skipping movement.
What?
You know, as in she did a little caper.
Little capering.
I don't buy
I'm
it.
surprised
Capering-
that's number one.
a capering
Number
trance.
two, which is listed as an informal definition. So the formal definition is the bud and then a playful skipping movement. An informal definition is an activity or escapade, typically one that is illicit or ridiculous.
Right.
The whole thing is ridiculous.
Yes.
Just like he said.
Yeah. Sisko laid it out. This is so in that sense, if you're using the informal definition, Ira Stephen Bear, all right, you can call this a caper, but I still consider this a heist.
This is a heist.
It's a
episode
heist.
done in the heist style.
Let's leave it at that.
And you may think this is some semantic
Like a
gobbledygook.
heist is a type of caper, perhaps.
But this is what we're here for.
This is a heist.
This is what we're here for. We're gonna heist two heist. We're gonna heist your hearts. We're gonna heist. Dan looks like he's about to play something.
Take it easy, Pally.
There
Take
we
it
go.
easy.
All right, good. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so
It doesn't go boo.
So they had too many polys.
heist. Yes. Okay. There's a lot to talk about this episode, but
It doesn't go boo.
does anybody want to lay it out there to begin with?
1962 was racist.
Yes. Okay. That's a good part too. But
And this also like last week, it's another casino episode.
it's another
Oh, yeah,
casino
yeah,
episode.
totally.
Like the Royale last week. What did you think though? I'll say straight out, I really like this episode. It is silly, but I think the silliness in some ways actually reinforces the point of the episode in that because this episode it was designed to sort of lead into the end, the very serious first time ever on Star Trek multi-episode arc concluding the series, and this was a bit of silly fun. And to me, it was like the idea you need this kind of silly fun in a dire situation, you know, when you're dealing with direness, and so I don't know. For me, I enjoyed it.
What about you, Jesse?
I enjoyed it, and I thought it sort of worked because they have a bunch of characters that can all just do different things, and it's like you can be the waitress, and you can be the safecracker, and like Odo could just be like just hanging out in the room like as a pile of goo, and
and it was more heisty.
He's part man, part suitcase.
Well, because Dan, when we were talking about I believe it was Lagrange point. You one of your arguments against that one being a true heist was you said that while there's heisty elements, what it didn't have was each individual character having a hilariously specific set of skills for the heist.
Yeah.
And in this episode, they have that in spades.
Right. So that was definitely a positive point. But overall, I felt
I neither like him nor dislike him.
Ah, you're one of those.
yeah, it's fine.
Which is fine.
There was definitely all the heist elements were there, and that was fun. But I just the whole time it just felt. And look, I love silly. Silly is so neat. But like,
Hey, Jesse, do you think this guy likes silly?
I wonder sometimes.
it's pretty. It's
because
cool.
I'm pretty silly, and he gives me some looks.
But this This episode was pretty silly, though.
It's silly.
Like
except for a couple points. But.
Like their whole except for a couple points, but like their whole thing is like they're all freaking out about Vic like losing Vic, which is fine, but
and Sisko's all like, "When are you guys gonna get back to work?"
Yeah,
I see. When do you plan on going back to work?
Right. When do you plan on going back to work?
Yeah. So they thought of Vic as a real person, basically, because he's for for Nog. He helped Nog get over the fact that he lost his leg. He helped Odo and Kira get together. Oh, Brian and Bashir just have a hoot and holler with him. That's basically
they were going to go to another holodeck.
Yeah.
They were inviting him to another holodeck program.
Yeah, and he said no. I want to know why he didn't want to go. You could tell what he said was an excuse.
I think he knows how it ends, dude.
Well, I also think he thought it was lame.
Probably not his thing.
It's probably lame, right?
That's their shit.
But so they treat him as like a real person. But then on the other hand, I just thought it was kind of funny the way Bashir and them were treating him as a real person. And then they were talking about getting rid of Frankie eyes. And they're like, we can't use a phaser. We have to be period specific. So we'll have to use a gun.
Right.
So on the one hand, they're thinking of Vic as this real friend, this real person. So by transference, some sort of transitive property, wouldn't you think that they think of Frankie eyes?
No.
I know they don't know Frankie eyes as well as Vic.
It's not about knowing.
It's sort of different.
Is that Vic is the conceit is that Vic was a very well-designed holo program that then grew in being on for a long time.
Yeah,
because they kind of make that point in this episode about they don't want him to erase all his memories because then he doesn't.
I know, but
then he's not the same guy anymore.
Right,
he's
I know.
Nice Moriarty.
But when you think of like
Moriarty.
When you think of the material they're made up of, it's just they're all the same shit.
Oh yeah,
and so it's like it's just interesting on the one hand to like this violent act of shooting and killing someone with a gun. It's just a game, but when it's Vic, it's like real. Yeah. And then we're getting back to that whole Barkley situation and like a little bit Geordi. But more Barkley
with the whole hollow people,
which is fine. It seems harmless that look. It's fine. It's very silly.
Well, what you've done is a roundabout way of pointing out that they are at no point interrogating the sort of philosophical or sci-fi concept of the consciousness of this. They just simply assert it. They're like, Vic is our friend. We consider him our friend.
Right.
We talk to him like a friend. We want to help him. And
it doesn't go boo.
For me, that's part of what makes the episode interesting is that none of our heroes are at any point in any danger of anything other than being sad that their video game is broken.
Yeah. Also,
that's the downside if you leave out the whole like whether Vic is conscious entity or not.
I wasn't clear on the gaming rules, like because they were unable to. Well, Brian couldn't erase Frankie eyes. I get that. Like the Felix. By the way, we've never seen Felix.
What's the deal with this
Felix? He's
completely for this episode.
He's Bashir's holo dealer. Felix sends him various things throughout the years, and with Vic Fontaine's thing being the main one. You imagine? I think didn't they do that on the Orville where they had like illicit. Underground like simulations that they were being sold around. I kind of think of Felix as a progenitor to that idea.
Okay. So I understand why they couldn't erase the characters, but he couldn't pause the program either. And so at first I was like, is this going to be one of those episodes where they can't get out of the holodeck?
Yeah, exactly. But it's not.
It's not, because the next scene they're just there.
And
so I guess we're led to believe that the program's still going on. Kind of like, what is that game? Animal Island, or what's that?
Animal Crossing?
Animal Crossing. Yeah, Animal Crossing.
Animal Island.
Yeah, I don't know.
You've probably played it. I've
actually never played Animal Crossing. It's kind of funny that I forgot the name of it.
It scares me, that game.
I'm intrigued by it, but I never dabbled. Yeah. In any case, that has a real time, and several games have this sort of real time sort of activity where things happen even if you're not playing the game, or at least they're simulated to have happened.
Yes.
So that's the thing, is it seems like that's what's going on in the holodeck, and that's pretty dangerous to have that kind of mechanic on a ship full of Starfleet officers, because they don't want to feel like they're fucking their game up because they have to do their job and prevent the DS9 from falling apart.
Voyager did it. They had that shit going.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, if the point is that if the game is continuously going when they're not playing it, that means that they only have a limited amount of real life time to save Vic. Right? If they could pause the game,
it's how they create. It's one of the ways they create tension in this episode. Is that conceit, that construct.
So they couldn't just let it sit for a year and come back a year later and play it, and because Vic would be dead by then, presumably.
Right.
So, and that's dangerous to have Starfleet officers be beholden to
isn't there
such,
like some Dominion shit going on?
Yeah,
I know, it's like the end of the world.
Right. So you don't want them to be playing or be playing. You don't want them to fight the Dominion and thinking like, well, we gotta finish this fight soon so I can save Vic, because if we don't kill the Dominion in time, Vic's gonna die too, and that's just you can't have that.
Yeah, but that's going on in real world.
It's
like
problematic.
There are people at the Pentagon who are playing Animal Crossing and Pokemon Go and things like that. They're like part of their brain is like concerned about like, oh, I got to get back to my.
They probably all have some Tamagotchis. That's probably
got to get on Roblox at the right time to.
You remember the Tamagotchis? Those things you can carry those with you.
You can.
Yeah.
You can get through security on that shit.
Yeah.
So this is basically it wasn't a hacked. I was about to say it was hacked. It wasn't hacked. Felix didn't hack it. He built in this, as they said, Jack in the Box. And I don't know. I found that whole.
It doesn't go boo.
The whole explanation that Bashir gave, I thought it was great. It was just kind of sort of funny to hear somebody actually explain what a Jack in the Box is. It's just because it is it's sort of when you think about it, it's sort of a peculiar concept.
It doesn't go boo.
I liked when there were two instances of O'Brien speculating for holodeck errors. The first one, he said maybe there's a pointer fault in the HoloSuite's parameter file. That was why
a memory pointer or something?
Yeah, I guess, pointer, maybe some kind of, it was pointing to a null register or some kind of computer word one of those guys. I'm surprised it wasn't. Maybe it was a null reference. No, it wouldn't have been a null reference. It would have been a pointer fault because they're pointing at the characters, but it's probably pointing to a null reference. Okay, anyways, that's the first one. The second one
please feel free to. You can continue to explain.
I'm interested.
I'm sitting in rapt attention.
I'm just.
Is there some sort of like matrix memory involved?
I'm speculating through the field of gobbledygook.
Do you have
the vehicle of gobbledygook?
So like a database. Like a SQL database.
Take it easy, Pally. Take it easy.
I got to take it easy.
How do holodecks sort of retrieve and organize information, I wonder?
I've got to do a lot better than that.
All right. Anyway, when you're erasing a character, would that be a null reference? No, because if the character's there, it would be a pointer fault. But it could be a null reference when it thinks that it has the character, but it doesn't actually have the character. But he's still there over there.
What would create that sort of scenario?
I don't know. I've never programmed for a holodeck before.
Oh well, never.
Well, you got to get on that.
Anyone listening to what I'm saying that has any programming experiences is like, this guy's talking a bunch of bullshit.
Oh no, I bet this guy knows what he's talking.
But all the rest of us who don't will be like, this is really cool. What a clever dude. And it'll
sounds clever to me. So.
It'll give the podcast, perhaps unfair, but it'll give the perception to the podcast audience that we're clever people.
The next part, O'Brien said, computer, freeze program. There must be a little problem in the character deletion algorithm. There's a whole algorithm for deleting. The character's probably pretty complicated.
Well, when you think about it, because especially like, what does that mean when you delete a character? Because of course, visually, it just seems like, oh, they just disappear from the holodeck. But if he wasn't removing the character from the scene. He was deleting the character. And how does that untangle the character's logic from the rest of the story?
Nobody remembers that.
Right?
That's why it needs an algorithm.
I would imagine that's why it needs an algorithm. That's probably powered by some sort of clever tokenized AI. What do you think?
Yeah, tokenized.
Tokenized.
Definitely tokenized.
All right.
Sounds believable.
I'm token with them eyes.
Token.
Wait, was that a play on taken with those eyes or token on a bong? Like token on a spliff.
It's however you want to take it.
Token on one of those marijuana cigarettes.
You want to know?
I was like, I do want to know, Sisko, but we'll talk about you later. We'll talk about you when we get to the serious portion of the show.
Why?
We're still talking about all the silly stuff.
So
Raccoon hat. Right. That was it. So if we start right at the beginning, I will preface this by pointing out, I think it was Mike Vehar who directed this. This is a brilliantly directed episode. I don't know if you agree, Dan, but I know you said you were neither here nor there, but there is a lot of production in this episode.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool shit going on.
The camera movements, the positioning of the act, like it's a complicated episode. All the costumes.
And it was cool how they took so Odo took the place of if you think of Ocean's 11, he's kind of like the gymnast in a way, but although the gymnast got in and
are you talking about the newer Ocean's 11, not the original Ocean's 11?
Well, not the original back in not that one.
Not that one.
Anyway, look, so Odo was kind of like the guy who was acrobatic because Odo was able to turn himself into a tray. Now it's
and a glass.
Yeah.
Was he the glass too, or just the track?
I
Maybe it's
don't
just
know.
a track.
That's a good question.
And it wasn't he then also part suitcase when
He was the suitcase.
Oh, right.
That's why I had to keep holding it because it was part of him. He couldn't put it down.
DS9 shape shifters don't follow the T1000 from Terminator 2 rules of shape shifting.
Could you explain those rules to us?
You're about
to. I got you. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, I'm glad you asked.
All right.
That's what I really said.
Yeah.
The T1000 can only shape change into things of similar mass.
Ah, yes.
Or it would have to be the same mass, I would imagine. But the size, like the size.
Odo can turn into a mouse. He can turn into an eagle. We don't know how big he can turn into, but
I want to see Odo turn into a dragon.
For real.
There was
that would be sick.
There was such sincerity.
I know.
Sincerity in that statement.
I so wish there were dragons. No, I don't, because we'd all be dead. But like, it'd be awesome.
What?
It'd be awesome if there was a
hang
dragons
out
would
with
be my
them and talk to them like
Yeah.
with Sean, and they'd be like with Sean Connery voices.
I'd be into a dragon continent where like all these super like ancient dragons and young dragons
They're like
and
penned
smart,
in.
Not like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, you're describing Jurassic Park.
No, they live and they invent things and then they help us.
Oh,
and
so
they
they're
help
like
us
clever
live.
dragons.
Yeah, and they help us from. They keep us from destroying the Earth and that kind of thing.
Oh, you've described an extremely specific fantasy, which is fine. It's just the way the way you're speaking makes it sound like you're describing a very generic fantasy. But you've said an island of dinosaurs, a continent of dinosaurs that helps us save the world. Do they stop global warming?
Dragons are not dinosaurs.
Do they invent some sort of carbon capture technology?
Well, it's less that they help us save the world, and it's more that they prevent us from blowing it up. They have to keep admonishing us all the time.
Do they eat up all the nuclear weapons or something? How do they stop us from blowing up?
No, like when we start doing crazy, terrible shit, like dragons will swoop in and
they're all like,
Yeah, they'll teach us a lesson.
They wave their finger at us.
Then they say, hold on to your butts.
Yeah, exactly.
Do they have like talons like on their fingers?
Yeah. Except do
the chickens have large talons?
Do they? Is like Dennis Nedry looking dragon?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what happens. Jesse was saying dragons aren't dinosaurs, and they sometimes look like dinosaurs.
There's a similar
depictions
iconography.
Of them. You know,
they often look like serpents.
I want one of those
in the East. They often look like serpents.
I want a picture book that's full of like that old those grotesque artwork of like hell and demons and people eating each other, from like hundreds of years ago. You know what I'm talking about? Every once in a while
what are you talking about?
What has prompted this? We're having a delightful discussion about a very silly episode of Star Trek, and you're talking about
just real quick. Remember,
I want a coffee table book with people devouring each other, just gnawing on flesh.
I was thinking about
eating
that the
babies,
other day.
Burning, and
I was thinking about eating a baby.
Demons
the other day.
like torturing people and those kinds of those.
Yeah,
in what
like
we
putting a bunch of babies on a spike.
No. What We Do in the Shadows. That was originally a movie, now a TV show.
I'm familiar. Very good.
And sometimes they'll sometimes they'll start talking about some kind of
Wellington Paranormal. Also good.
They sometimes start talking about some ancient history of their history, and they'll show these images of this artwork of like just horrible looking shit. Yeah. And I want to know where that artwork is, and I want a book of it that I can put on my coffee table.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, the great thing about that particular desire, Dan, is I believe that with not too much effort, you can totally make that a reality.
I don't even know what I'd search for.
I'm just saying that
somebody's got one.
You've presented us with two strong desires tonight. One is for a coffee table book of medieval Christian artwork, and another is
the darker side of it.
Another is a continent of intelligent dinosaurs,
dragons,
of intelligent dragons.
This guy's got dinosaurs on the brain
that fight global warming and nuclear proliferation. The latter one is maybe that's a kid's book. Maybe you write it up. Probably not going to happen in real life, but you can definitely get that coffee table book with the demons, with the babies on spikes and flayed open people and that sort of thing.
I was only asking.
And I asked and answered, as they say.
Just a crazy idea.
Okay. Again, we're almost up on a break, but.
Cheech spelled his name Cicci.
Yes.
Cici.
Chi-Chi.
Cici.
I think it's Chi-Chi. Isn't that Chi-Chi? Because the C is chi in in Italian.
All I heard on the TV was Cheech.
Yeah, because Cheech is short for Chi-Chi.
Yeah.
Or chicharron.
But it's interesting
Maybe
that
it's
it's interesting though that they would
They often drop the last syllable in southern Italy. And
okay, that's interesting to know. The closed captioning though spelled it CICCI, so why wouldn't they just spell the abbreviated version on the closed
Exactly,
captioning?
I know. I was watching it closed caption.
Good question.
Yeah.
You guys are both part of the whole closed caption crew.
It was intriguing to my eyes and my ears.
Yeah.
I don't have anything.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't have any. I don't have a problem with subtitles. I'm not that into captions. Although I respect them. I got no.
I watch it on my teeny little phone and I read the captions.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I know exactly what they say.
A lot of times the dialogue can sound muffled to me, which is a signal of like I'm losing my hearing or something.
Oh yeah, totally.
Could be that too. But you guys are both.
Thanks, Justin. Just like, oh yeah, totally.
Well, you guys are
enjoy it while you can, buddy.
You guys are rock and rollers. You're punk rockers. You know what do you expect? You're gonna have
some loud times.
You will have fucked up certain parts of your body
Yeah.
in the pursuit of art. All right.
Come on!
That being said, we have now wasted enough time to officially be ready to take a quick break, a commercial break. I don't know if you'll hear a commercial.
I have a Rice Krispie treat.
You might hear nothing, but we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we will continue to discuss this very silly, but in my book, very fun episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. We will be right back.
Catch you later, baby.
All right, we are back.
So Jesse.
Uh-oh.
So, how was your day?
I think he wants us to call him Jess. Do you remember a few weeks ago?
I never said that.
Nobody answered my question. I just asked a question. I bet none of you can figure out. You can remember what I just asked.
I thought you said how's your day?
Yeah, I did. No one answered.
But you were asking Jesse specifically. You said how's your I didn't think I was
know.
permitted to
Yeah,
answer.
Jesse, you didn't answer.
All right, Jesse, you answer. Jess. Well, you answer. Maybe we have to call him Jess to respond to it.
No,
to get him to respond.
I don't think I said that.
Because a few weeks ago, I don't know. I think I got it in my head that he wanted to call us Jess, and then today he's talking about how in southern Italy they dropped the last syllable, and so for you,
it was a subtle hint.
For you, that would be Jess. We should.
Why?
I don't know why. It's a cultural thing, I suppose.
Hey, Bally. What side are you on?
If we drop the last syllable in Dan's name, he would just be.
Yeah, which means I'm being called all the time. It drives me crazy.
It makes me. It sounded like something Mitch Hedberg would say.
Patrick.
Hey, uh-oh.
So, how was your day?
It was all right.
Cool. All right.
Busy. There's a lot of stuff going on at work.
Yeah. Was it cool stuff?
Yeah, it's just it's a busy time.
Work stuff.
Lots of stuff being juggled.
That's how life goes.
Personal
sometimes.
life, watching TV shows.
Sometimes you gotta
Star Trek.
Sometimes you gotta wake up. Sometimes you gotta go to bed. You
can sit down. And you're like, I gotta watch this episode of Star Trek for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I watched it and took notes.
I watched you watch it.
That's one thing that I did today.
Did you watch through the window?
I watched this episode while Dan watched me watching the episode from the outside.
Oh, by the way,
by the way,
this line.
Catch you later, baby.
One would think that I would grab that. I grabbed that.
Okay.
From
Hey Jess, do you think everything's all right with this guy?
I wonder.
Absolutely.
Dan's having a verbal breakdown here. Jesse is the audience doesn't know this, but Jesse during the break, one of the things the break afforded was the opportunity for Jesse to unwrap a giant Rice Krispies treat.
It's a huge one
because it's a really crinkly wrapper. And Jesse's been scolded about crinkly wrappers in the past.
It's looking a semi-flaccid.
So he was able to do that during the break, but now Jesse is just making fucking love to this to this Rice Krispies.
I'm just eating it.
It's good because
you're like slowly.
I'm trying to be quiet.
You're massaging it with your fingers.
Well, it's nice they're not chips, so you don't really hear him eating it.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
try not to bite it as I'm right on the microphone.
I don't know. I know Dan's not into the food sounds, but I don't know. I like some of that ASMR stuff.
I mean, the food sounds I'm more indifferent to. It's just, but ASMR in general is kind of obnoxious.
Well, that's why I like it.
Okay.
I don't find it relaxing at all. I find it really tension-inducing.
Mm-hmm.
Like parts of this episode, like when Nog kept failing in opening.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
I was talking about something.
We'll get to that later. We'll get to that later.
This
Don't worry.
line that I played last break.
All right.
Catch you later, baby.
Catch you later, baby.
One might think that I pulled that from this episode, but one would be wrong.
Yes, you pulled that from was it His Way? Did you pull it from His Way?
I think so.
I bet it was from His Way when we discussed His Way, which is another Vic Fontaine episode starring another Vic Fontaine episode also starring Horny Odo, like this episode. And every time we see Horny Odo, it's uncomfortable. And I don't mean Horny Odo because he's likes Kira. I mean the scene in this episode when they go in. And he's with Kira, and Odo is visibly distracted by the scantily clad and synchronized dancing women.
And Kira thinks it's adorable.
Not only does she think it's adorable, she thinks that's hot. Yeah. She's like, Odo's getting horny over those ladies. And I don't know, that part always made me a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was
just
weird.
The way Rene Auberjonois, one of the most brilliant actors ever to be on Star Trek, something about the way he portrayed Odo as horny made me uncomfortable. It was not endearing. Yeah. It was weird. It was weird. But yes.
Yeah, and then she had that dialogue with Frankie Eyes that's sort of irritating, like tedious, like back and forth, where it's every response is really clever.
Yeah.
Now
and he seemed to find it tedious too, if you ask me.
Yeah,
Frankie Eyes seemed to be growing tired of that shit.
The thing is in any other in most. You know that they're sort of like having fun with that, so that's why it's funny.
The actors are having a good time.
But like when they're doing like that shit for real and being all coy for real in those shows, it's just like, oh god, this is so awful to listen to.
Yeah. I get
but it's cool in this. It's actually cool in this episode because they're kind of like it's all like an homage or whatever. Yeah. So all rules are off. But
all rules are off.
All bets are off.
Another common phrase.
Okay, but here's that was from His Way, by the way.
But well done, Patrick.
And here's what's also from His Way.
You're terrific.
You're terrific.
So here's what's from this episode.
You got it, Pally.
And then
you know we love you.
He puts on. Bashir puts on this affectation whenever he's around Vic.
He does, yeah.
Catch you later, baby. You're terrific. You got it, Pally. You know we love you.
That brings to mind the fact that this is another one of those episodes like the Royale. Right?
With cheese.
Or Piece of the Action, even though that's not a holographic
Got
type
any
thing.
Cheese?
No, it's a play-along episode. It's where, in order to resolve the plot, the characters have to play along in some sort of storyline that is sort of an artificial thing, right? The Royale had it last week, very specifically. It takes the Royale version to 10, does it times 10, right? Piece of the Action was kind of like that in TOS, even though again it's not a fake scenario, it's not a fantasy scenario. Kirk and Spock, they were only able to resolve that situation once they sort of took on the roles of gangsters and sort of played into the storyline there. I think these are the types of episodes that can divide Star Trek fans. And Dan, it sounds like you. I don't know. You might be like a little bit more on the side where you're just like, whatever.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is like when I watch it, it's not an episode that I would choose to watch again anytime soon. Out of my pick, and like it was fine. I just didn't feel like very fulfilled afterwards. But on the other hand, they did a really good job with it. I think they did a fantastic job with the episode between the music and like the heist was actually clever. Like I said, what I was saying about Odo being how he can be the size of a tray and T-1000 and all that was actually going somewhere. Being that it's clever that they took the heist formula and they were able to work in Odo's special ability into that role. So it's like, and that's why I was saying he was like the acrobat in the remake of Ocean's 11, not the one from way back. What year was that made?
Which, the Ocean's 11?
The original.
60s, I mean.
Yeah. So there was the later one. So there was that. So it's like Odo was able to sneak into like a spot like unnoticed, whereas the one dude could get in a box. He just turned into a tray. Although it was weird because like Nog could just stroll in anyways. But I mean, it seemed like the Odo and Nog's combo was like, it wasn't forced because they both did have a function. Nog has those wonderful Ferengi ears that can listen. And Kira didn't tell him that it didn't.
And all Ferengi are thieves.
Kira didn't tell him it had an auto lock tumbler, so that's a bummer. But then Odo can change.
That's a bummer, man.
It's just weird that the Odo had to sneak in and Nog.
It's also
didn't.
weird that Odo use his powers to slurp into the locking mechanism and sort of loosen it from the inside.
Yeah,
but that's
why didn't
because
he do that?
it's because his character class isn't thief.
Yeah, right. That's right. Because Nog is a Ferengi. All Ferengi.
Yes, all Ferengi in Star Trek
are like the gnomes.
Are even the good guy Ferengis.
Right.
Like
Starfleet
they use like Nog is an example of he's a good guy Ferengi who uses his powers of thievery for good.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, could be considered problematic from one perspective. But I think
So-
I'll take it with the spirit it was intended.
I'm glad Nog was in it, but they could have done the whole thing with just Odo, and it would have made more sense. Because like you don't, why would you? I guess that you have to have different roles. One guy's the maintenance person, the other person is like the money guy.
There's also probably
it was clever though.
There's a million other plots, schemes they could have come up with. Capers. That maybe would have had the same effect. So it's always an example of
capers,
you get the story that you get because that's the one you're watching, right? But it does not preclude other things. But I like play along to get along plot episodes.
Is that what this is?
Yeah, this is a play along to get along. The Royale was play along to get along. I'm sure there's others in Star Trek that are just escaping me at the moment. Maybe the Robin Hood one a little bit. And TNG.
So yeah, the heist was what they had to do is Kira had to distract Frankie Eyes by playing footsies with him. That part was so weird.
Yeah, because he was like, I would like to have sex with you.
Yeah.
Why are you not having sex with me? I'm rich.
Yeah. And she's like, let's play footsies, and it's like footsies. Yeah. But like, there was two funny things.
I think he was into it though.
There's two funny.
Well, yeah, but I also like that again. All the actors
just weird
are great. The writing's great. I like that he was getting fed up with it too.
Yeah.
Right. They gave some flavor to these characters.
It seems like footsies is not something you announce that you're going to do. You don't carve out a time to play footsies. You just start doing.
Well, he was put off like that. That's what I'm saying. He was kind of put off by that, and I think it was an example of a subtle, perhaps example, but an example of the writers saying Kira's trying to be the sexy whatever, but she's not exactly that.
It was funny when Zemo totally blew her off.
Oh my god! And Mr. Zemo is like the best thing of this whole episode, I think. But again, we'll get to that later.
So yeah, but actually that line, there were two funny things said. Once, the first one was saying by Frankie. He goes,
"What do you say we blow some of my money at the crap tables?"
He called it crap tables.
Yes,
crap tables.
I don't know if that's correct or not. It may be. I don't. I'm not familiar.
Maybe it is. I've just never thought of it that way.
Gambling scene.
And then here's her line of,
"We can play footsies under the table."
Which is that was weird.
Under the table.
I'll never tell. So Kira distracts Frankie Eyes. Vic attracts Sisko as the high roller. That was their role. Sisko, who got switched over pretty quick, but I guess we'll talk. We'll talk about it. It was probably one of the better parts of the episode.
Will we?
We will, Jesse. Jess.
Esri, she accidentally drops the martini. Oh, no,
a person bumps into her.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm sort of like mixing up my... No, that's what went wrong. What was supposed to happen is she was supposed to bring a martini to Howard, who was the count man, and then she was
there's two count men. Well, the other count man goes every night to talk to what was his girlfriend.
Oh yeah, Al talks to his girl. Yeah, Al talks to his it's just family. They just say family.
That's right. Yeah.
So Al talks to his family, and
for
then
exactly 8 minutes every night.
Yeah, and then by the way,
I guess it's a holodeck program.
But by the way, like at one point, Odo says to Quark or Nog, he says, "It's been 8 minutes. We're running out of time." It's like you technically have run out of time, but they stalled him. But it was anyway. Small point, but so Howard is the one that took his place for 8 minutes, and he likes to drink vodka martinis, which is interesting because back then everyone liked gin martinis. I don't know when vodka martinis actually became popular, but back in those days, I think it was mostly gin martinis. But
I'm not familiar with that.
And he ordered it stirred, not shaken.
What about a highball? Did people drink a lot of highballs back then, or was that
I think that's
earlier?
just the sight of glass. It's not highball. That's just
highball's got whiskey.
I think a highball is a cocktail, but it is also it's given the name to the glass, even though other cocktails will use a highball glass. Just like other cocktails will use a martini glass, even if they are not a martini. Yeah. Say, for example, a Cosmopolitan.
I get it. Yeah.
Colloquially known as a Cosmo.
So anyways.
So it was the same guy that played Gowron.
So
the replacement guy. Yes.
So anyway, she poisons him, and then Cassidy distracts a guard. Nog cracks the safe, and Odo is the bag man who walks out with the bag. And then the things that went wrong, Ezri knocks over the martini.
No, you keep saying that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bashir knocked it, or some person knocked it.
A fella in a hurry. A fella in a hurry to either throw down some chips or chase after a dame.
A broad.
I'm telling you, this broad ain't playing with the full deck.
Or maybe
Chief O'Brien.
A handsome feller. Maybe a handsome feller that he caught his eye.
Right.
We don't know. But he was in a rush and he bumped into her as she came around the corner because she did not. Dan, I think you can attest to this, having at one point
she should have said corner.
Worked in the service industry. Yes, she did not take the proper precautions or use the right technique carrying the tray. on her way, and that certainly I think increased the chances of her having a collision with somebody, which is precisely what happened.
You're supposed to say corner when you go around corners.
She probably hasn't done
and
a
not
lot of
hold the
serving.
tray like 3 feet in front of you. And
Yeah, well, it's funny. Afterwards, she was super careful with it carrying it. But so
maybe she wasn't the best one to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what else.
Do you think they just stereotyped because she was young?
Yeah,
probably.
And female.
So
pretty much.
Probably. So I liked how they sort of ramped up the tension with that, because that began like it was a real small like oopsie. It's like no big deal. It fell over immediately. Bashir fixed the issue because he found another one. It was like real simple, no big deal. But then as the time goes on, like you said, it finally got to Nog. He failed. It was rule of threes. He failed 3 times that we saw.
No, Nog failed more than 3 times.
No, he only pulled the thing 3 times.
Maybe he only pulled it, but there were multiple.
We saw. We only saw him go ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk.
Yeah, but like the thing I liked about the Nog, so a couple things. First of all, the thing I liked about the Nog thing was that it went beyond the standard, beyond the cliche. And so it went from being a cliche, like, oh, he's not getting it, to like, oh, he's still not getting it. It goes to a commercial break, and you're like, oh, he's going to get it when they come back from commercial break. No, he didn't get it when he came back from commercial break. And then they come back to him later, and he still doesn't get it. So I thought that was an effective way to as you say, ramp up the tension.
I've got to do a lot better than that.
And speaking of that, I know this is a bit of a non sequitur, but it came
still
to mind. No, we'll get right back to it. This is very brief because you talked about ramping things up, and that made me think of ramps. The ingredient, and I don't know what that is. What's a ramp? Is it like some sort of
Isn't it some kind of leafy vegetable?
It's a leafy vegetable of some sort. Is that, is it like an endive? Do either of you know?
I don't know if it's like it's more like a
a ramp, like you get like a salad or something with like ramps in it.
Isn't it more like a mustard green or something?
It could be, but doesn't like everything come? Doesn't pretty much everything come from mustard green?
It's according to the internet, it's a type of wild allium that are related to spring onions and leeks and boast a pungent garlicky onion
that
flavor.
Makes
so
sense.
not like an endive or endive, depending on which part of it you're talking.
Yeah.
There's
an
endive,
aubergine versus an eggplant.
It's funny. It's funny because endive and endive, like you think they're 2 pronunciations for the same thing, but I think they're actually different parts.
Now
of it
you're making me think they might be giants for
I think
something. That sounds like it would be they might be giant, like an unpublished They Might Be Giants song. Endive versus endive.
I could be making that up, but I swear that I read that.
Audnine, that's what I'm getting.
Belgian endive is grown inside a complete darkness, unlike the endive, which is grown in a field like lettuce.
So it's different. So they're different.
Yeah.
things.
So the endive.
Neither of them are ramps.
The endive is grown in darkness, and the endive is grown in a field like lettuce. Okay.
But a ramp is like
an onion,
like a spring onion.
Yeah, it's like an onion. Okay. This is now we're talking about
ramps
vegetables.
and shallots.
I don't know why we're talking about this now.
Well, because you said ramped up, and what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do?
What am I supposed to do with that? What'd you expect?
Yes, exactly. What did you
Come on!
Is there any information about the usage of ramp?
What? I'm sure you put it in a fucking salad and put some kind of...
Is that what the internet says? It says fucking salad?
I don't know. It's like a leafy thing, man. Like, what do you do with leafy things?
Yeah, like how leafy? Leafy like an onion leaf, or leafy like a lettuce leaf?
Yeah, if it's in that family,
it's like an onion. It looks like a fucking like green onion or some shit.
Fucking onion.
It's like a big onion, though, right?
It's big.
It's like God, I'm tired of talking about ramps.
Like a big old
Stop asking me.
Stem kind of thing?
Look, either you know it or you look it up on your phone, because I will not be a part of this anymore.
Oh man.
He's gotten so upset.
Laying down the law.
Okay. Anyway, I
felt
apologize.
overwhelmed just then.
I do apologize. It was just in my brain.
Fair enough.
I apologize for that slight diversion. So you were saying,
huh?
Howard was out sick that day, so she had to have a new count man,
who was Robert O'Reilly.
Who's you're saying is Gowron?
He played Gowron.
But the funny thing there was like she went out on a limb because he didn't want the drink. He was like, I'm talking about he's not thirsty or some shit. He was
I'm not thirsty.
That's what he said. I'm not thirsty.
I'm not thirsty.
I'm not thirsty.
So she the way she got him to do it was by saying, well, I'm really thirsty. Do you mind if I have it instead? And then he's all like,
that's about the saddest story I ever heard.
And then he fucking took it for himself like an asshole.
I guess she read that, right?
She did. She got him to drink it, something he didn't want to drink, by telling him that she wanted it.
She's like, this guy is obviously a piece of shit.
Yeah, what the fuck, man? But it worked. So that worked.
It was also really cute to see Robert O'Reilly out of his Gowron makeup. and he's not saying, honor to you and your house.
Now that's more like it.
But I was like, who's there? Who's there? Why is there somebody behind me? Is this just like a bit of audio? Is that just extra audio in the back? Play that again.
Which one?
The one you just played.
Which one did I just play?
Just start playing sounds.
Shit.
Whatever you just.
The one about like it's behind me.
Because there was just like some little audio in the end. I wanted to try to listen to it again.
Yeah. Oh, this one. I'm sorry. I for the life of me couldn't remember it.
Now that's more like it.
Yeah.
What's that?
I don't know. I didn't notice that when I was.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Now that's more like it.
Wait.
Now that's more like it.
What are we gonna?
Do you think that was a ghost recording?
Yeah, like in 3 Men and a Baby. Isn't there someone dead in 3 Men and a Baby in the background hanging from a? Isn't that the story in 3 Men and a Baby? There's someone hanging.
Wizard of Oz.
There's someone hanging in the back.
It's a story in Wizard of Oz. It's a story in 3 Men and a Baby. None of those are true.
It's one of those things.
In addition, ghosts aren't real, and you can't get ghost recordings. But that all being said,
you can't record them.
That did sound like a ghost recording, like some ghosts
doesn't show up.
Some very sort of business-minded ghosts or planning.
Well, I think there's just so much background noise in that place with people talking.
Yeah, they had a lot of extras.
They paid extras all hubbubbing.
They paid for a lot of extras in this.
Yeah,
thing.
no,
this was apparently an expensive episode.
Yeah, no, it was done really well. It's just like certain shows, and I hate to be one of these people sometimes, but sometimes you'll be watching a show and they'll have one of those episodes in the middle of the season that's totally out of character, has no bearing on like the rest of it.
A very special episode.
And like for example, an example would be
in Strange New Worlds.
No, I have a perfect one. I have one in mind that I'm going to tell you right now. So out of all the shows and movies, you don't have to try to guess exactly which one of the billions of them I'm thinking of.
Well, I wasn't guessing that so much as thinking of an example that might fit the criteria that you laid out.
Okay, well, I was gonna say Breaking Bad. There's it's like the fly episode.
Yeah,
I like that episode,
but it's different.
It's different. I think that's one of the reasons people don't like it is because it doesn't really advance the plot too much. These sort of explorations. Another one that was less successful that was a bad episode is there was a Lost episode about these two people who are scoundrels and everyone hated that. Anyways, so this is kind of one of those episodes. DS9 had those like with the baseball.
Well, Take Me Out to the Holosuite is also a 7th season episode, right? Mm-hmm. This is, we see this a lot in Star Trek.
So anyway, I was just gonna say that like it was done really well, but it's sometimes hard for me to, and I feel a little guilty about that because
I don't feel guilty
because like I can see how it's good. It's just not hitting me.
Look, I think two things can be true. I think
the reason it makes me feel guilty is because it makes me feel like I'm like looking for the best of.
You're not appreciating.
Like
whatever.
I'm not appreciating new clever original ideas.
In my view, but like again, two things can be true. You can want to encourage the producers to have fun, experiment, do different things, and you can also not like the end result sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. It's fine. And I think that there are some people who are more into the things that don't stray from the regular format as much. There's some people who really like it. I'm kind of in the middle. I take them as they come. I think sometimes they try something and it's really awesome. Sometimes they like Far Beyond the Stars, totally different format. I think it's amazing, right? Mm-hmm. The Visitor, totally different format, amazing. Mm-hmm. This one I really like.
Well, this one had everything going for it. It had like you said, they had all the extras. The set was great. They had legitimate, awesome, cool like roles for each person. There were little mistakes that we mentioned. Oh, the last one was the whole auto lock tumbler, which we went over, which was built the most tension. We went from Esri dropping the vodka martini, which wasn't, to that, which was like, oh my god,
real tension.
Yeah. So they had the heist and the mistakes, and they had like the set and the people and like the production and the music and all. They had all the pieces, so it was really well made. So.
But for me as a counter example, as much as I enjoyed this episode, Take Me Out to the Holosuite as an example was I don't dislike that, but I'm more like you like this episode. You sort of take it or leave it. You don't mind watching it, but it's not like you seek it out. Take Me Out to the Holosuite is kind of like that. It's a little too silly. I'm not as like the motivations aren't as convincing and stuff. It's fun. They have a good time. It's not just silly. It's that one's sort of goofy. Whereas in this one, as silly as a lot of it is, as silly as a lot of it is, wait, was that from the Lower Decks episode?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
As silly as this episode can be,
we haven't done the baseball one. I don't think.
No, we haven't. We haven't done Take Me Out to the Holosuite. Yeah. This episode, everything. It fits together in a way that makes sense with the context of the characters and the show and where they are at this point in Deep Space Nine history and storytelling and all that. And what I was going to say earlier is that in this period of Star Trek, where you had your 7 seasons, all TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, they all in the 7th season started doing some let's do some different stuff. You can understand why the producers, the actors, the writers, everyone's they're like, we don't do the same thing week to week. Let's do some crazy shit in our last season, right? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. For me, the motivations here, it all works. I buy that these people are upset for all the reasons you listed earlier, Dan. They've all been helped by Vic in some fashion. They've all found some value in this relationship with him. They've gotten solace from him. They've gotten
I do not understand how you could feel such loyalty for a hologram.
Yeah, and he's just he's just not involved. I love that Worf is just not involved. Quark is like, something's going on up there.
He's not just a hologram.
Holograms? He is a hologram. Hologram.
Vic, hologram or not, is in trouble.
Hologram.
But for everybody else, you buy why they're there, you buy why they're playing the role, and not just from what's built up in the season, just contained within this episode. You can come into this episode fairly cold and not even knowing that much about Vic Fontaine or the relationships, and they give you everything you need in the dialogue, in the acting. They even
end with a crowd-pleasing musical number.
They do.
Yeah.
Which is a very meta musical number because they put that in there for a couple reasons, but in part because, again, this episode, one side note, this episode was actually filmed after the episode that comes after it in the airing order.
What episode is that, Patrick?
Inter Arma Silent Legis. In times of war, the law falls silent, which is an old Latin.
You're terrific.
I am terrific, yes. That episode, they switched places because of sweeps, according to some information.
Back when
I found.
sweeps meant, I was thinking about that the other day about how seasons are shorter, but they're not necessarily a year apart.
Yeah,
they're all sorts of ways apart. But then I was thinking about the whole structure of seasons, how they used to be, and sweeps
and ratings. And so for folks who don't know, sweeps month was the month where the rating companies paid extra special attention. Basically, they took more data in those months,
and then which
for
was
the ratings.
And then there was what they called. After the season was over, there was another name, I think, for the off-season stuff.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Yeah,
summer
that's
or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But the point being that
it doesn't exist anymore.
That back in the day, seasons were often structured such that event episodes, goofy episodes, very special, dramatic child molester episodes, whatever,
or Blossom has sex for the first time,
that sort of thing. They would structure those in the schedule to appear during sweeps month, which I think was May was one of them in the spring, and then in the fall I forget what it was, September, October or something. Because they're trying to get attention, they want to increase their stats because that is when they get the most ratings data, and that back in the day, and then that is how they could set the prices for their advertising. And so it was everyone knew it was manipulation and gimmicking, even the advertisers, but I guess this system
and we certainly can't let that happen.
Worked for a while, even though looking back it sounds completely ludicrous. But they were
But don't you see, that's the lie.
They were so pleased with this episode, how it turned out, that they decided to switch places with it. But as originally intended, this was going to be the episode that was the last fun episode before going into that 9-episode continuous story that closes out the season. So
that would be the skim.
Yes, it was going to be a respite, a brief respite before, taking the deep breath. In the end, it's still basically like that because Inter Arma Silent Legis is a very intense episode in and of itself and does relate to the larger season long arc or series long arc, really. Yeah.
It was pretty interesting.
Hell yeah!
I'm sorry I didn't make it entertaining, but
no. It was very informative.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can't be entertaining all the time.
Well, I was entertained. I was so entertained I forgot what I was going to say next.
Oh, were you going to say? I was kind of banking on you coming in and being like, wagga wagga, hey, go.
And we certainly can't let that happen.
Huh?
Wait, yeah, what's this up from?
Is that when O'Brien is getting strip searched?
No, I was thinking about that too. fucking like a holodeck holosuite program. Can they just strip search you like that? That seems a little invasive.
And it still happened, even though the program switched back, and he all comes out and he's like, "I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it."
Yeah. No, it was this part.
I want a real cheesesteak, and I don't care if you gotta fly to Philadelphia to get it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
knocks him on the ground.
I like he hits him in the face. I like whenever someone hits someone in the face with a sandwich. I don't know. That's really funny.
Sandwich as weapon is good.
Yeah. And then this was
sort of an upsetting desire.
And this is
another one you can make reality pretty quick, though, if you need to.
This is the most forced line, or at least confusing to me.
You wouldn't happen to have a slice of pizza on you, would you?
When he asked Esri if she happened to have a slice of pizza on her, she was applying for a job, and he's like, he was. Obviously, he wasn't literally. Well, maybe he was literally.
She doesn't have the job yet.
He was just hungry at that moment because he didn't have the sandwich.
Right.
Yeah, the dames is always keeping pizza in their back pockets.
I get what you're saying. It was a weird, confusing thing.
Just because he doesn't have a sandwich
but
anymore?
It makes sense that he's hungry, and so it's
Looks like he should start eating
She's
salads.
trying to get a job from him, and he's kind of like, "Hey, what can you get me some food because I'm hungry?" But yes, it was weird. It was weird.
You wouldn't happen to have a slice of pizza on you.
Does she look like
I thought it was weird.
What wasn't weird?
I know he wasn't like literally expecting her to have a pizza hanging out in her clothes or anything, but I guess it makes
like he
I guess
did.
it's related to him like hitting the dude with the cheesesteak because he no longer has a cheesesteak.
Yeah.
It's just weird. It was weird.
It was weird.
It was weird. It was shoehorned.
What's not weird, what was actually very charming, was that Esri had a little name tag that said Esri.
Oh,
I don't know why that really charmed me, because it was like that old, really old school black with the white press, where you just put it in the machine to make kind of thing, like the old waiter server style.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, time for a break. We're gonna we're gonna do that, and then when we come back, we will go about concluding our discussion of the episode, this heist episode. We will stop discussing.
Discuss.
Take it easy, Pally. Take it easy.
We will stop discussing this episode.
I'm not looking for trouble.
And then we will conclude the podcast.
Very good.
That's just a preview for what's coming up.
Sounds great.
When we get
Deal me in.
When we get back,
Deal me in.
We'll be right back.
Pally. Now open this bottle of Coke.
Where's that Coke gonna open a bottle of you?
Shut the fuck up.
All right, we're back. Hey, we're back.
Where have you been?
We're back.
I'll tell you where I've been.
I don't want to talk about it.
I think
I was only asking.
Vic Fontaine, he should
Let's leave it at that.
He should set up a driving crooner business. Did you see? The driving crooner from season 3 of I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. Have you seen that one?
It's been a while since I've seen all the seasons, but it's been a while. I've forgotten.
It's where he has a decal of a hat and a cigar.
Oh, is that the cigar? And he's just and you don't. Yeah, that's just bizarre.
And he's somehow making money off of it.
Yeah, it was really fucking weird. It was pretty good.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
We mentioned the raccoon hat briefly, but I did want to get back to that to comment on it. Just this episode opened with just a close up of a raccoon hat, and then it leads into Bashir and O'Brien's conversation where they're inviting
Chief O'Brien.
Yeah, they're inviting Vic Fontaine to join them at the Alamo, and Bashir seems
Sure, I remember the Alamo.
legitimately upset that Vic Fontaine basically blows them off. He's like, "No, that's some lame shit."
You think they're going to be the Mexicans or the Texans?
It's a good question.
Just, I don't think it has an answer, but I
mean, one would assume that as much as I like Bashir and O'Brien, they often are playing the white,
right? Yeah, they're white guys,
white underdogs. I mean, O'Brien was certainly a white underdog.
Chief O'Brien.
I'm not joking, Lee.
But one reason why I wanted to bring that back up, even though I know it's all the way back at the beginning, is I also thought it was an interesting idea. The idea to invite a hologram character from one program to another.
Hologram.
We see a formal invitation here, whereas in other Star Trek episodes, we've seen them do the whole gag where they have hologram characters maybe
Holograms
show up in
holograms
other places, but yeah, this was a good one.
Totally.
That Odo stretchy trick that he did. First he was being all coy. Cheech was like, pick up the glass, show him like he did it, and he just picks it up like he's like, what are you talking about? I'm just picking up the glass.
Yeah.
But then he does the stretchy arm, and I couldn't tell whether it was a special. And let me don't interrupt and tell me, because I'm going to tell you what I thought as I was watching that.
I'm going to tell you.
Jess's got a cat-like smirk on his face right now.
At first, I was thinking
Cat-like smirk.
oh, what they did is they basically had someone was hiding behind them and like stuck their arm in there, or someone was hiding their arm in such a way that it would be a trick that you could pull off in real life. But then I was looking closer, and it looked a little odd. So it seemed like maybe it was a combination of that. I couldn't tell if it was just simply someone standing behind him and moving their arm back and forth.
It was the magic of television.
Or if they actually like did some kind of like Odo special effects on it.
On my screen, it just looked like
it was the magic of the
like CGI, like a CGI hand.
Yeah, it looked like a CGI hand, but
I'm pretty sure it was a CGI
they were positioned.
hand.
If you look at how they're positioned in such a way that you would think people trying to trick you would position themselves when they're trying to hide an extra person with a sneaky arm behind them. You know? It's like if you were seeing it in real life, like Chris Angel or whatever, one of those guys.
Right, Chris Angel, arm snake.
Why you got to be bringing up Chris Angel?
I'm sorry,
Chris Angel arm snake.
I couldn't think of anything else.
Great.
Hey, Pally.
Not to get too blue, but the subject of Odo and sexuality and the implications of Odo's biology when it comes to fun times, for lack of a better term.
What's going on?
Not to get into too much detail. That's come up frequently, but I've never had occasion to look up Rule 34 Odo.
Me too.
Okay, so you have. So you're saying you haven't?
I haven't. Yeah.
Okay.
Neither has Odo.
I think most people.
Absolutely.
Most people, I'm sure, listening to this particular podcast are probably familiar with Rule 34 of the internet.
Sure.
But in case you're not, Rule 34 is an axiom of sorts that says that, in the world of the internet, that if you can think of something, there is a porn version of it. So basically, any concept, any character, any sort of thing that exists, it's quite likely that somebody out there has created a pornographic version of that.
Let's do it.
Where would I stay?
And one can bet many quatloos. One can bet a lot of gold pressed latinum and
Okay.
and
Let's. what are you going off about quatloos and gold pressed latinum? Like, are you making a point here, or are you vamping?
I was probably vamping a little
100
bit unintentionally. I
Pazuzas.
just sort of was enjoying talking about and having not seen Odo porn.
Porn.
But I think it's out there.
Get out of here.
Odo Wang.
I think it's probably out there. And that hand, you just made me think of it because, again, the audience listening couldn't see this at home. But Dan, just a moment ago when he was describing this whole Odo arm situation, he was doing, maybe not realizing at the time, he was doing an interesting sort of miming of that Odo hand trick that made me think of Odo porn.
Okay, and I'm glad.
I'm
that
sorry, I know that
made
was-
you think of Odo. Was it the way my arm was thrusting in and out of my hand?
A little bit, yeah. It was because you were putting your other hand around your wrist, presumably to mimic Odo's tuxedo cuff,
right?
And then you were moving your arm back and forth through that.
And then you made your fingers into a ring and put it up to your mouth and put your tongue out in and out of the hole.
No.
I don't recall that.
I'm
part.
afraid I have to say no.
Then it was really offensive, and we said stop.
Hey, Pally.
Hey.
Whose side are you on?
Yes. Okay. So
Odo porn.
I'll leave it to the
some.
audience to look it up. You feel free to send us something at feedback@discussstartrek.com if you find anything interesting.
Let's see. Why do count men and poker players wear those stupid visor hats?
I don't know. Jesse, do you know the answer to this? Is it merely style? Is it because
I
of the
often
fluorescent
wonder.
light? Is it the lights? Is it to protect their eyes
It's
from
like
Maybe they're just-
bankers in
from the
old
lights?
movies.
Maybe it's just supposed to like identify who they are. If you have a hat, everyone thinks you're a banker. Or
Right.
It's that weird specific visor.
And I guess people I've seen, in movies and TV or whatever, people in casinos wearing those visors.
Yeah.
It's some kind of guys that count the money visors.
Some kind of wonderful.
Is it like really big lights? They got really big lights in there? Didn't look like it.
Lights inside the. I don't think
Extra
the
bright
lighting
lights,
has to do with
need
it.
a visor.
Wearing in the dark. Did you notice that when Frankie Eyes was giving Kira some money? Speaking of Countman, Countman Al was looking at him all suspiciously. When Frankie Eyes gave Kira money, he looked at him suspiciously, kind of like, "Oh, I've seen many businessmen ruin ruin their business by like skimming from the bank.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, you're not supposed to touch your money like that. You're supposed to count it up and then divvy it out. And he was skimming off the top. Now, granted, it was his money. But
so that's what you think? Because I thought you were saying that he was looking at the guy being like, "Oh, this dame's fucking with you. Don't you realize?"
I mean,
that?
maybe.
But you're right. It could just be he was pissed off that he's like, "You're not." Maybe he's not going to get his cut or something.
Yeah, because
although we don't know exactly the terms.
He's probably like, yeah, Frankie's like getting too big for his britches just because he's in cool with Zemo now, and he's like, he thinks he can skim off the top like that, you know, because everyone's got to get their cut.
But the acting in this episode, the casting was brilliant. I did not look up many of the actors' names. I know is it Starr? Is it Mark Starr or Martin Starr? Not
Martin Starr.
It's not Martin Starr. It's something Starr. Mike Starr. It's Mike Starr played Cheech.
Yeah, I've seen him.
And of course,
stuff,
he's in a million
He's in a million things.
He's in the Hudsucker Proxy. He's in all sorts of stuff.
Let me get this straight.
He's in the Hudsucker Proxy?
He's that motherfucker's in the Hudsucker Proxy.
Oh my God.
I think he's in some other Coen Brothers films as well.
The guard was in the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh.
As one of the substitute Dukes of Hazzard when there was like a season where they had like these other guys.
I did not know that.
There was some kind of contract dispute.
But Frankie Eyes, the guy that got to play the Frankie Eyes was fantastic. The guy they got to play Mr. Zemo was fantastic.
So in this, when Frankie's all greeting him, he's like, "We weren't expecting you," and then Zemo's like, "I'm early. You got a problem with that?" And Frankie goes, "No, not at all. Sit down, have a drink." Zemo goes, "We'll have a drink later.
Yeah.
Where's the count room?" Yeah. And when he says, "We'll have a drink later," his hand he all does a sideways chop horizontally with his hand, and it's like I don't know why it looks really it looks smooth. Maybe he was just forcing it, but it looks smooth. And it's like,
where's my money?
Yeah, and the thing is that the actor was able to play that combination of like withered old elderly man, but also terrifying because again, a slightly different casting. Slightly different casting, and it fucks this all up because you start with Vic Fontaine, and the key aspect of Vic Fontaine that's part of why people like him or don't like him is he is confident, he is in charge, he's the coolest guy in the room, he's got all the answers to any question you have.
Now that's more like it.
He can sing a song.
This guy's got no problems. And then when fucking Frankie Eyes walks in, you're like, oh, that guy is fucked up. This guy can fuck up Vic Fontaine, and he proceeds to do just that.
Looking good as usual, Dollface.
So
he's got an ugly mug.
You have to have an actor that can pull that off, and then you have to have an actor to play Zemo that makes it when he walks in, you're like, oh, now Frankie Eyes is fucked. And when Zemo walks in, he's like, "Where's my money?" You know, he's like, "Where's my money?" He's like this old man. It's like, "Where's the counter?" You can barely understand what he's saying, and you're like, "This guy is gonna fucking kill me."
Like the Frankie Eyes and the beef between the controversy, the rivalry between
teach the controversy
between Vic and Frankie Eyes was. He basically said it's because of stickball, and it's just from there. It kind of like they've kind of grown to dislike each other. Or
what is stickball exactly? Is it like
kind of like baseball?
Okay,
but with a stick.
The thing is I'm like
just a bunch of rocks.
Felix didn't put much backstory into the Frankie Eyes and Vic situation because you could say Frankie Eyes screwed him over for business purposes, but you could tell that Frankie Eyes was really into screwing Vic over. Like he took joy from it, and if it's just because Vic used to beat him at stickball as a kid, I know Vic's probably exaggerating, and there was something that he's like. It's the same reason he wouldn't play the holodeck, and he said it's because he doesn't look good in chaps. But I kind of want to know. I want to know why he hates him so much.
Well, I interpret it as
maybe Rick got the girl or something.
Well, look, they don't state it outright, and I think because they trust the audience. At least most of the audience to understand Vic is the cool guy. Vic is the guy who is honestly great guy, and he's handsome, and he's cool, and he sings. He can
absolutely.
So that's the person who pisses people off the most, right? If a guy has a talent, you want him to have a drug addiction or to have been abused. Mm-hmm. If the person's nice, you want them to be poor or whatever. You don't want the person that's got everything. And Frankie is the kind of guy that he's always, no matter how many gals he can land, how much money he makes. he knows that anyone given the option of hanging out with him or Vic, they're going to hang out with Vic because Vic is the more charming guy. He's just a more interesting guy. That's what I got from it. I think that's
about the saddest story I ever heard.
Yeah, it was pretty sad. For you have a certain amount of sympathy for Frankie Eyes, and even the name is great because that's the kind of name you give yourself if you're a fucking if you have insecurity.
Yeah,
right?
or think of someone who's like shifty-eyed, some kind of weaselly kind of like, yeah.
So the thing about Zemo, the other thing that makes Zemo powerful is Zemo is a mirror in some ways to Fontaine in that even though Zemo's evil and Fontaine is good, they have no insecurities. Frankie Eyes is nothing but insecurities. He's the classic, like the lame masculinity that confuses violence and controlling people as being secure, as being masculine, when it's not. That's like the lamest thing in the world. Whereas Vic Fontaine is like, I don't have to have any control or influence over anybody, and I feel great about it. Zemo's the same. Zemo's like, I couldn't care less.
Well, like, so Vic all wins out in the end and everything, but just the way he was treating Zemo earlier, you'd think he'd get like at least the shit kicked out of him for the kind of shit he was saying. He was like talking about seeing his girlfriend in a bikini, and then he was like,
Who's this? Your grandpa?
Like, he was talking bold about Zemo, and they were even like, we're gonna bury you, but it's like, you'd think he'd like face some repercussions for that.
They were assuming, it turns out correctly, that what Felix had done has put in this thing, and that every aspect of that, including Zemo, etc., disappears.
Yeah.
From the program if they successfully beat the little mini level.
So they should have just gone in there with like super guns and shot everyone dead.
Yes, yeah. Like I said earlier, I think there are a number of different plans that may have have worked, but have been less entertaining.
Yeah, no, that's
for
true.
An hour of television.
Well, even as video games, and there are video games that you can like just blow people away, or you can sneak around and you can play whatever play style you prefer. So that's their play style.
What if they just had to grind in the forest, killing pigs and rabbits for like 100 days,
picking apples?
Yeah, building up their XP, like in that episode of South Park.
XP.
Yeah, make love, not Warcraft or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Yeah. So, what else? Huh?
Well, we already talked about the motives being sincere and believable for all the characters involved, and that includes this whole business with Sisko. We can talk about that business with Sisko now because it's almost a little out of place in this episode because so much of this episode is silly.
But I thought it was really great that they included it because you can forget. It's easy on these episodes to just like have this romantic view and like and it's all fun and games, but you don't want to bring that down. But it's important. Like I think it's useful to remind people of the reality, and that's what this did. Yeah. And it didn't linger on it like I said before, Sisko got switched over very quick.
The episode makes an argument.
She had a successful argument where she was
we have to lay it out so this makes sense, okay? So, let me real quick. Ira Stephen Bear stated that they specifically added this because exactly the point you're making, Dan. They were like, look, we want to have fun in this environment, but we realized that we risked romanticizing a time period where traditionally marginalized people were being treated very poorly, and that we didn't want to do that. And this was an opportunity to sort of call that out, right? Mm-hmm. And I bought into Cassidy's argument.
Well, and also because their argument was basically like, don't let them have that power over you to not enjoy the things you want to enjoy.
We're just getting at it backwards. Sisko's argument was this was not a good time for our people. And, he's making the argument that somebody might make.
And I'm saying, you were bringing up Cassidy's argument, and I was saying, yes, what I was originally going to say was that they had an effective reason, and that reason was like, it's like you make a good point, but they shouldn't have the power. I guess the way I took it was, they shouldn't have the power to take things you enjoy away from you, basically. That's how I read that.
And I personally, what I'm trying to get at is that I personally I buy into Cassidy's argument with the caveat that I'm also a white guy, and we like to side with arguments that make us feel better.
And that's true too.
Enjoy stuff, right? So
absolutely.
That's an important caveat. But otherwise, I mean, because I'm one of those people where the fun of writing stories is that you can have that break from reality, because storytelling is important, and one way to take back control is to redo history in the form of fiction.
Yeah, and it's not something stories usually do, though, is what Sisko brought up, and it was pretty Star Trek kind of thing to do, to like a Star Trek thing to do to bring a subject like that up to just as a reminder.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
But yeah, once again, like you said, like we're some white guys, so it's like we don't really have a lot
I
to
could
say
totally
on
see
it.
somebody saying that it's Cassidy's argument is fine, but it is not sufficient to overcome the risk of romanticizing.
Well, and that's
or whitewashing.
Well,
even.
and that's why I sort of was like, he did flip real quick, but for the purposes of fitting in the story, you couldn't like they wanted to plant the idea, they didn't want to linger on it.
And it was you could also argue in some senses. I wouldn't say it was overt psychological manipulation on Cassidy's part. However, she probably knows that Sisko and his masculinity, he's got his own type of masculinity, might chafe at the idea that he was limiting his own options, limiting his own power in that sense. So I don't know. It's very interesting little thing that pops out in the episode that I thought was cool. And that alone sort of made the episode worth it to me, because it does come up in a lot of other Star Trek stuff where they're traveling through, doing all sorts of holodeck programs or traveling through time or whatever. Now, traveling through time, it doesn't work because you're actually in that time. So that's a problem.
Yeah, problematic.
It's an argument that if you look around on the internet, it's also come up a lot when people, are talking about like casting Shakespeare plays or something like that. And then often there's debates if you have a diverse cast in a Shakespeare play, when Shakespeare, the whole point was not about the specific historic settings. The point was examinations of the human condition. And that's what Star Trek does too, right? They often will shift from canon or science or whatever if it serves the story they're trying to tell about the actual characters. And that's often when Star Trek is being most awesome, is when it's telling some super interesting story about characters and the plot and the surrounding environment. That's just a framework to have those kind of cool discussions on.
Spaceships.
There was 3 notable closed captioning music moments. Was the very first song, which was the Back to the Future song, the song that they're playing in Back to the Future, the one that's like
Oh, right, yeah.
It's not this one.
Why are you playing this?
I was just clarifying that it's not this song.
I'm in the middle of a fucking point, man.
I'm just. This is heist music.
No,
caper music.
We're not talking about caper music.
Okay.
We're talking about
Night Train.
We're talking about
Night Train. It's Night Train.
Oh my god,
it's Night Train. The song you're referring to is Night Train.
Is that the name of the song?
Yes, it is the name of the song.
So the closed captioning referred to it as slow, sexy saxophone.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
The second song, the one that kept going like ba-doom, ba-boom, ba-da, that one, that was called sultry jazz playing. Was that the closed captioning?
That's pretty funny.
And then the last one where all the women were on stage was called sultry striptease music playing.
That was some wild
slow sexy saxophone, sultry jazz, and sultry striptease music.
Watching that whatever I guess they call it a striptease. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to call this.
Yeah, right.
Synchronized weird. It worked for me because, and I presume they did this on purpose, but maybe not. It was that trying to be sexy, but it's not.
Yeah, right.
Where I'm watching, I'm like, this is gross. And I'm not trying to say I'm no paragon of virtue. I'm a gross dude. If it's, if there's sexy stuff, I'm like, hey, that's sexy. This is like you're trying to be sexy and it's grossing me out.
Yeah.
I assume that's what they were going for, because that's the vibe I was getting, is that it was meant to be skeevy and weird. Yeah. But it also made me think, is like, how do you direct that on the day? Like, how do you get all these actors together on the stage and they have to learn all this choreography and be like, yeah, we want you to make people feel uncomfortable. On this episode, this whimsical episode of Star Trek should end with people being a little bit skeeved out.
They forced him off the stage. Like, he had to he kept having to move forward.
Yeah.
Up stage.
Do you want to play the caper music now?
No, well, I mean, there's a bunch of caper music. I think part of the joke is much of this doesn't sound like this is some
Deal me in.
This is caper music.
Looking good as usual, dollface.
How about this is not caper.
I don't know what that's supposed to be.
It's called woodland caper because it's a caper like skipping through the woods.
Yeah, okay.
You see?
Like, yeah, skipping, like that definition.
This is like a,
Okay. That's like a musical example sentence.
Yeah, what about
Nah.
That was like the seed.
Like the seed? Yeah, this is like the bud.
The seed caper. Yeah.
Is this what you imagine when you just open up a pouch full of capers?
Yeah.
That would be so weird if that music started playing and like a whole thing of capers like opening itself up to me.
Well, that's the only 5 things that have the term caper.
Do you want to hear a 24-second clip of DS9 jazz?
You mean that crazy, awesome rearrangement when they're being like introduced, walking down the promenade?
Yeah, that was great.
It's all you almost think they thought of that shot. And then they're like, let's make an episode around that, around that shot. Let's make an episode justifying this shot.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there was that.
I like how you literally go full fade. That's good.
Full fade.
Full fade.
Got a little full fade, bro.
Full fade dance.
The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come.
I actually recorded.
Is great.
And I'm not gonna play it because it's really.
Won't that be
I recorded every time Sisko sang, and
you are my balls on chin, and isn't that divine?
I recorded every sample of Sisko singing that song.
Okay.
I recorded one of Vic, and then one of them together at the end. So.
And now why are you denying us this?
I mean, there's a lot. There's like 10 files.
There's 10 files.
Yeah.
Is it something you could play in quick succession?
I guess.
You came along and everything started to hum.
All right, so you recorded every one of his clips.
The best is yet to come, and babe, won't it be fine?
It is great.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is one of the first examples.
Wait till the warm-up's underway.
I thought he was
Wait
gonna say
till
underwear.
our lips have met.
Wait. This is one of the first examples of Star Trek, and they did this a few times in 7th season DS9, just saying fuck it, we're gonna just do the whole thing.
Yeah, they did.
You know what I'm saying? Because normally you could see like they'd fade out. Sisko would start singing, and then they would fade out. No, they're like, we're gonna sing the whole fucking song. Because there's a meta reason to that, is that I forget if I mentioned this earlier in the episode, I think I meant to, is that the producers were like, we have these next 9 episodes coming. Mm-hmm. They're going to be awesome. This is going to be an awesome closeout to the series. So we want to, in a meta sense, sing to the audience. The best is yet to come.
This switches it up.
The best is yet to come the day you're mine.
You think you've flown before, but you ain't left the ground.
There's like 5 more files, so.
All right, I get what you're saying.
I'll play this.
The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come the day you're mine.
Very nice. The best is yet to come. Also on the It's Got Star Trek podcast, I'm sure the best is yet to come.
Yeah. When
there's no way for you to play all of those at the exact same time.
I can play them close together.
But can they overlap?
Come on.
Yeah,
Not in succession. Can you just
I can overlap them.
See how many you can play at once.
Okay, I hope this doesn't crash.
You the best wait long the warm and baby.
Exactly what I wanted. The best is yet to come on my balls on shell. All right. That's groovy. I'm digging that. That's some grooviness.
This has been It's Got Star Trek.
The best is yet to come.
Okay. Yes. All right. I guess we should finish up.
That was tight.
What are the final bits? Bits and pieces.
When Frankie was like, "You haven't touched your drink," she's like, "The night's young. I've got to pace myself." And he looked at her suspiciously. He's like, "Pace yourself for what?" And I'm like, "There's nothing suspicious about that. She just wanted to pace herself."
No. But again, he's getting frustrated because he wants to fuck.
Oh, right.
Not to be crude.
Okay.
He wants that floozy to get
That's why he was annoyed when she was talking about footsie and pacing herself. All that shit.
That makes sense. The way I was thinking of it at the time was that he was like thinking she was up to something.
Yeah,
but
he
really
wanted to gamble with her because he wanted to get all like amped up and be all like, you know.
I was surprised at how quickly that Ipecac disappeared, and I don't believe Ipecac is purple.
No, I don't know why it was an added complication that they did not need. Because I believe Ipecac is just a relatively clear fluid.
Yeah.
It's again, lots of subtle stuff in here. We didn't get to all of it, but when Bashir has a full house, pretty high.
Oh yeah,
high ranking full house.
3 kings and 2 8s.
Yeah, and he's all excited, and then he looks over, and it was like a classic like. He's on duty. He knows his mission. He knows what he's got to do. He's a professional.
Right.
And he's like a little disappointed that he has to put down his fake poker game where he's not going to win any. Yeah, because it's still.
By the way, in the game of duty or no duty, you just resulted in duty.
Did I say duty?
Yeah, you said duty.
For folks who don't realize, in America, duty is a slang term for poop.
Yep.
Deal me in.
Duty is, of course, an obligation. I also, one thing I did want to mention is the solution that Sisko had. In addition to playing a role, I like that they gave Sisko the ultimate help, right? Mm-hmm. When he came up with the idea, everybody's a winner.
The way he was throwing money,
just throwing money around, looking intense at people.
Yeah, he was so intense the way he was throwing the money.
Just serious, like everyone's a winner.
Yeah, it was fucking scaring me.
But that was great, and it was wonderful because, again, yes, of course, in the context of the episode, very quick turnaround from Sisko from being like "fuck this Vic Fontaine guy" to "I'm all in," but. This was a good payoff because it was good that he was there. He wasn't just a prop. He had to contribute, just like everyone else had to contribute with some improvisational criminality.
Oh, there's one last question I had. Criminality. Do you think that Michael Dorn was suffering from a cold at the time? Listen to these sound files of Worf speaking.
I neither like him nor dislike him.
Well, that's kind of. Let me just play a few.
So wait. What you're telling us? I know we're going a little over, but what you're telling us, Dan, is that we're playing an episode of Cold or No Cold.
Yes, Cold or No Cold.
All right. This could be what breaks us from a medium tier podcast to the upper echelon.
The
Cold
leagues.
or No Cold.
Okay, I'm just play all 3 of the sounds, and now I'm playing the second. Wait, okay.
I do not understand how you could feel such loyalty for a hologram.
Doesn't it sound like he has a cold?
No.
I do not understand how you could feel such loyalty for a hologram.
I never noticed that in the past, and 100%.
And here's another one.
He is a hologram.
Well, that's the one's not. So the second one, let me try the first one again.
I neither like him nor dislike him.
Yeah, there's a bit of something I neither like him or dislike him.
These two.
There's a closedness in the nasal passages. They're not letting the full.
I'm going to go with no
timbre.
cold.
Jesse goes no cold. Patrick says cold. I say
100%. Cold all the way.
So just play him
ice cold.
Back to back, real quick.
I neither like him nor dislike him. I do not understand how you could feel such loyalty for a hologram.
And I'm not going to play the third one because that one wasn't good. But,
all right. Well, write in to feedback@itsgotstartrek.com. Cold or no cold. You let us know.
Just a crazy idea.
I want to know, folks. What do you think? It's also, a good way to know who listened all the way to the end of the episode.
Chief O'Brien has stolen my chips.
Cold or no cold, feedback at discussstartrek.com. Or alternatively, if you like, you can write to us, cold or no cold. Give us your opinion on social media at It's Got Star Trek, Twitter, Facebook, Mastodon,
do you remember when
Bluesky, all that
Cassidy?
business.
You remember when Cassidy said,
Chief O'Brien has stolen my chips?
And then Jake said,
Chief O'Brien?
Yes. Yes, I do remember those two completely.
Because Jake was such a prominent part of this episode.
He was only referenced. This is one of the few episodes that he's not in because he's usually hovering about somewhere. Social media. We're on Facebook, YouTube, all that jazz. Website is www.itsgotstartrek.com. Patreon. We didn't mention Patreon this week, but we should. Go to Patreon, sign up.
I'm not jokingly.
Pay us money and get a few little extra bits here and there.
We're dangerous.
Patreon.com/itsgotstartrek. You can, of course, check out the free previews. Sign up for free. Oh, and I think we don't do it enough, but we should do it from time to time. Please, if you do get a chance to rate and review, that would be awesome.
Bilana's on it.
Wherever you listen to the podcast, if you can just click the little review button and just say, hey.
Just say, hey, guys.
That's fine. Whatever. I don't know. These guys, they're all right. Give them a listen. 5 stars. That would be super cool. And why not? Spread the love. That would be cool. Anything else, gents? Jess?
What? That's not my name.
Do you have any final concluding statements?
Why? No, I'm good.
All right. With that, we'll say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye.
Wait. Next week.
Oh yeah.
Real quick.
You want to know?
I rescind the goodbye next week, I'm traveling to Alaska. I'm going to Anchorage. If you're listening to this and you're in Anchorage, I'm there. Write to feedback@discussstartrek.com. We'll meet up, have a beer, or look at a bear or something.
That would be the skim.
But Jesse and Dan, they will be discussing, what is it? The Communicator, Enterprise. Star Trek Enterprise Season 2, Episode 8,
Good things come to those who wait.
The Communicator. I'm hoping to send in some of my own thoughts via audio dictation, but otherwise these two gentlemen
And we certainly can't let that happen.
handle the episode, so please
crazy.
inundate them with emails and voicemails and other such business. And okay, now we've done everything that we're supposed to do.
And I gave you my answer.
All right, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Catch you later, baby.
Then I drive him out to the woods. Bada-Bing, Badda-Bang, 3 shots in the back of the head. That's the end of Little Paulie. So what do you think Frankie says when I report back in? Little Paulie? Nah. I told you to pop Big Paulie. That's the problem with our business. Too many guys named Paulie.